Hey there internets, I'm Michael and this is Toucan Play That Game. Today we are starting our look at Camel Up. And so obviously this will be how to play the game, and then the next video will have an example of this being played, and then the final video you'll be able to see my review and find out my thoughts and of course whether or not Toucan play this game. Let's talk about what Camel Up is. Well, let's take a look at the box here. Well, we've got a racing flag. So we've got a race. We've got some pyramids and deserts, so racing in Egypt. And we've got camels climbing over each other. Well, so obviously we've got racing camels in Egypt, but what's with the climbing over each other? Well, that's actually really summed up this game nicely. It is about camel racing, but it's actually not you racing the camels yourselves, it's you betting on the camel racing. So why don't you join me in learning how to play Camel Up? So the first thing you want to do is get your board out. And this is a single-sided board. You can see this side, we just have a nice picture of camels climbing over each other. So you want this side up and just set the board out in the middle of the table. Next, you want to get your pyramid. Now this doesn't come assembled, so if you're playing this for the first time, you will need to assemble this, but it's not difficult. Also just want to add, if the pyramid breaks and wears, which I have seen happen with copies that have seen probably hundreds of plays, it's unlikely to happen for your copies, same way it hasn't happened yet for mine. But if it does, you can just put them in any sort of bag, just so that your dice are being drawn out at random. And in here, right here, rocking around, we have 5 dice. So obviously those 5 dice you will want to put in your pyramid or bag. That was close, record it. And then there's a space in the middle of the board and track for that to sit. Then you're going to want to get your wooden camels. Whoop, I'm just dropping all the pieces today. Never mind. So you're going to want your wooden camels out. And for now, we're just going to put them there. What we need to do is decide where these camels are each going to start. So we take our pyramid and you set it down flat on a flat surface, and you just push the thing trapdoor so that a single dice falls out, and then that tells us that this is the yellow dice. So we get the yellow camel and we sit that on the space numbered 2, and then we'll just move that out the way and we repeat. That's no dice. There we go. So green goes on 1, and these dice range from 1 to 3. So we've now had another 2. So all we do is stack the camel on top of the existing yellow camel that we had there. And then blue out in the lead on number 3. No, orange has just jumped on top of that blue camel. So that's our camels set out for the start of the race. We then put the dice back in the pyramid or bag if you're using a bag. Next, you want to get the rectangular tiles. Now, there'll be 5 of these that have a single coin icon on and a picture of a pyramid. And you want to stack those up on this space with a pyramid icon on the board. Then there are 3 tiles for each colour of camel. So we've got here the whites, and they will have a 5, 3 and 2 value on them. You want to stack them up so that it goes in decreasing order, so 5, 3, 2, and then put those on the spaces with the pictures of the camels. So that's then the main board set up. the next thing you want to do is get out your money and put it near the board. And in Camel Up, the money is called Egyptian pounds. So we have all our Egyptian pounds out here next to the board. So then you need to set up each player's area. So first thing each person will need to do is pick what character they're going to be. Now, the characters make no difference. It literally is just a picture so that you can identify whose cards are whose, etc. You then give each player their 5 camel cards. So there's 1 for each colour of camel. And also their oasis tile, which is this square tile. And you can tell whose is whose because they have different pictures on the back representing the characters, and that matches up to the tiles. So you'll sit those in front of each player, and then you'll then give each player 3 Egyptian pounds. Then the last thing you need to do before you can start playing the game is to decide who's going to go first. And according to the rules, it would be the youngest player, but you can always decide this randomly, which is what I tend to choose to do. And they'll be given this little token here, which represents the leg starting player. And a leg is a round, just to get that confusion out of the way. So with the game all set up, let's talk about how you play. You'll start with the person who has the leg starting token, and you'll start with your first leg or round of play. And that player then has a choice of which action they want to perform. There are a few options here. They could choose to put one of their camel tiles face down on either the first place camel spot or the last place camel spot, and this represents them placing a bet on the camel pictured coming in that place. So if I thought that white was going to win the race, I could choose to put my white camel card face down on the first place position. Or if I thought white was going to come last, I could choose to put it on the last place position. At the end of the game, the person who first selects the correct camel for either first or last will get 8 coins for doing so. So it does pay to place those cards early on if you're placing the right one. If you place the wrong one, however, you'll get -1 coin for every wrong card you place there. And the amount of coins you get for getting it correct go down the later you are of people who selected the right camel. So that's 2 of the options, either betting on first or betting on last. Another thing you can do is bet on who will come first in the individual leg. And the way this works is you would take these leg betting tiles and put it in front of you. Obviously, if you're the first person to pick a camel, you get the one that means if that camel wins, you get 5 coins. However, if it comes second, no matter which tile you take, you would only get 1 coin. But if it doesn't come first or second in that leg, you will lose a coin. So again, it's a case of taking these early to ensure you get the big money, but not so early that you bet on the wrong camel. And obviously there's leg betting tiles for each of the different camels, so you can pick which camel you choose to take a tile from. The next action you can choose to do is to place your oasis tile. Now, this tile is double-sided. On one side, it has a picture of a nice green lush oasis and a +1. If a camel lands on that, then you gain a coin and the camel will move 1 more space on. The other side is a dried up oasis desert with bones, and that has a -1. You'll still get a coin if a camel lands on this, but rather than going forward, the camel will go backwards a space. There are a few restrictions on where you can place these tiles, however. You can never place your tile on the one space of the track, and also you can never place it adjacent to another oasis tile. So let's say one player had already placed their tile on this number 4 space here. I'll move this pyramid out of the way so it's clearer for you to see. I would not be able to place this next to it on number 5, but I could place it on number 6. Also, you can't place a tile where there is already a camel. So these 3 spaces here currently have camels on, so I would be unable to place a tile there. Now, there's one final action you can choose to do. Keep in mind, you can only ever do one of these in a turn. And the final one is to take one of these pyramid tiles. Now, what this means is that at the end of the leg, when you put this tile back, you will automatically gain 1 Egyptian pound. So it's guaranteed money, that's good. But also, it allows you to roll a dice. So you pick up your pyramid, shake it up, put it on a flat surface, press the flap, and you get a dice out. That would then sit on these tents to indicate that it's come out of the pyramid. And of course, when you roll that, you would then move the appropriate camel. So in this case, I rolled a 1 on orange, so I would move that orange 1 space. Let's now talk a bit more about how this camel movement works, because obviously you have this confusion here with the stacking. So let's talk about a situation. I'm just going to get the dice out here, where the yellow camel, we rolled a 1 on the dice. And so the yellow camel needs to roll 1. Now you can see the yellow camel already has the white camel on top of it. What this means is whenever the yellow camel moves, the white camel moves with it. So by rolling a 1, I would then put it on top of this orange one. And now this means that this white camel is in the lead, because whoever's on the top of a stack is the camel that is winning in the race. Obviously this means we still have green in last, but out of these 4 stacked up, blue is losing. And now obviously if we had a case where blue rolled a 2, all 4 of these would move as a single one. So you can see how a single camel can move quite far without even having its dice come up. Obviously if we have a situation where we roll a 2 and the white moves that's on top, it literally just gets taken off and moves its 2 spaces. If we hadn't yet done the orange movement and we rolled a 1 on that orange, we would pick up the orange, the yellow and the white that are on top of the orange and put it down 1 space. The blue would stay where it was. So there's one final thing with the camel movement. Let's talk about a situation like this. So we have here these 2 camels here and these 2 camels here, and an oasis tile on -1 here. We then have the yellow camel rolls a 2. So it needs to move 2, it would go 1, 2, landing on this oasis tile, which means it needs to go backwards. Now, it doesn't go backwards and land on top of the orange. What happens is the blue and orange would go up and it goes below. But let's talk about a situation like this, where it's a +1 rather than a minus. Now, based on the way the minus works, you'd expect if this yellow and white, we had a 2 on the yellow, to go 1, 2, and then sit underneath, because that's how it worked for the minus. But with the plus, it does actually land on top. So that's how the camels move. Now let's talk about when a leg would end, which is the round. So you have a situation where you've got all your camels, and let's say 4 of them have moved. So we've used 4 of these tokens given to players for moving, rolling dice and moving camels. And we now take this final one to roll. So we roll that last camel and we move it, and that is then the end of the leg. So the leg ends as soon as you have moved each of those camels once. So once the pyramid is empty of dice. At this point, you would then do your end of leg scoring. And this would be when you turn in any of your pyramid tiles and take a coin for each pyramid tile. But it'd also be when you turn in these leg betting tiles. So if our player had taken the orange 5-point tile, because orange is in the lead at the end of this leg, they would get 5 coins for that. If, however, someone had taken white as being the winner, they would only get 1 coin because it is in second place, not in first. And let's imagine they were very wrong and chose yellow to win the leg. And they took this. Now, obviously it's got the 5 on there, but that doesn't apply because they didn't get first. It's got the 1, but they didn't get second. They got anything but first or second. So this would then mean -1. They would have to pay 1 coin to the bank. Now, if there's a situation where the player literally has no coins, and that has happened to me, then you don't pay anything. You don't end up with IOUs and negative money. So these would all go back to their relevant spaces in the correct order, and everyone would take their money. Additionally, any oasis tiles that had been placed down on the board would be picked up and the player would put them back in their player order. The leg starting player token would go to the person to the left of whoever last went. So that was whoever rolled the dice that ended that leg. Then you would just start a brand new leg and you would continue doing leg after leg until the race ends. So let's move these guys over here, and I should have them facing the right way. That's never going to finish if they're facing the wrong way. We're just starting a new leg. Now you can see on the board there is this start line, finish line. At the point where you start to near it, you're going to know the race hasn't got long before it's over. And the race will be over as soon as that happens. So blue rolled 2. So blue would go 1, 2, crossing the finish line, which immediately ends the leg. So if anyone had taken leg betting tiles yet by this point, they would get to resolve those, getting coins for them. Then you would work out your final game scoring. So this is where you look at the cards that have been bet for first place and last place of the race. And I'm going to start by looking at last place in this instance. So we take the stack as it was and flip it over. So the first one we see face up would be the first person who bet on that camel. So we've got this player here, bet yellow would lose, and they were right, so they would get 8 coins. But then they also bet green would lose, and they were wrong, so they would lose a coin. Then another player has bet that yellow would win, and so they would get the second place coins, which would be 5 coins. But then they also bet orange would lose, so they'd lose a coin. And then this player also bet orange would lose, so they would lose another coin. And you would go through all the cards, resolving them in that way. You'd then do the same for first place. Then to determine the winner, it's whoever has the most money. And that is how you play Camel Up. I hope you have enjoyed the game and enjoyed the video. And I hope you will check out the rest of the videos on the channel. And of course, please do subscribe to the channel. And you can also find us on social media. We are on Facebook and on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching and bye for now.